What if you suddenly lost everything? What if the future you'd worked so hard to build crumbled before your eyes? What if, in the blink of an eye, the government came after you and your empire was on the line? What would you do next? The news flashed across every screen, leaving people in shock. Elon Musk faces a federal lawsuit, and President Donald Trump must decide whether to limit Musk's power once and for all. Is this the beginning of the end for the world's richest man? The question echoed through the halls of the White House, Silicon Valley, and the media. For months, Musk had been a force to be reckoned with, from running Tesla to dominating the space industry with SpaceX. His reputation was as much about innovation as it was about controversy. Now, the billionaire tech mogul was faced with the most dangerous game yet, a battle for survival against the very government that once championed his vision. Will this lawsuit destroy Musk's empire? Pundits speculated. And more importantly, will President Trump step in to rein him in? For Elon Musk, this wasn't just about his companies. This was about power. And power in Washington, D.C., could make or break you. Trump, the former president and business magnate, had once been on friendly terms with Musk, publicly praising his innovative efforts. But now, things were different. With tensions rising between Musk and the government, their relationship was about to be tested in ways no one could have predicted. This was no ordinary legal case. The lawsuit, filed by federal agencies, had to do with far more than business dealings. It was about national security, environmental regulations, and the rapid rise of one man's influence over not only American industry but potentially the future of human life on Mars. A room full of political advisors buzzed with talk about what this case could mean for Musk's future. Would the government go so far as to impose restrictions that could topple his ventures? Could Trump, who had been close to Musk in the past, leverage this lawsuit to assert his own influence over the tech giant's sprawling empire? As the courtroom drama unfolded, Musk's allies on Wall Street and in Silicon Valley scrambled to defend him, but even they couldn't deny the rising pressure from the government. At the same time, critics questioned Musk's unchecked power, especially after his erratic behavior on social media and his controversial decisions regarding environmental issues. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The tech world watched with bated breath as the battle between Musk and the federal government began to heat up, and it was clear that the outcome of this lawsuit would determine far more than just the fate of one billionaire. It would shape the future of the entire tech industry. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elon Musk, once again, found himself at a crossroads. The empire he'd spent decades building, through Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink, was at risk. The very government he had often worked alongside, trying to push the limits of innovation, now stood against him, threatening to dismantle everything he had fought for. But if there was one thing Musk knew, it was how to turn the tables when things seemed darkest. The question wasn't if he could win. He always believed he could, but whether the cost of victory would be worth it. Would his vision for the future survive, or would President Trump step in to reshape his legacy forever? This wasn't just a legal battle. This was a high-stakes game of power, and Musk was about to play his hand. The stage was set. The world was watching, and the fight for the future had just begun. Elon Musk had never been the typical billionaire. Born in Pretoria, South Africa, he was a child of ambition, surrounded by books, gadgets, and the overwhelming desire to push the limits of what was possible. His early life was marked by a relentless drive to build and create, even when he didn't fully understand where it would take him. Musk's childhood was far from ordinary. A self-taught coder by the age of 12, he sold his first computer game for a modest $500, a moment that would ignite his passion for technology and the future. His move to the United States was no less unconventional. Musk left his home country for Canada at 17, seeking a new world where his dreams could flourish. His journey was far from smooth. He faced financial struggles, and the world didn't always seem ready for the type of innovation he was hoping to unleash. But as Musk found his way to Silicon Valley, his ideas began to catch fire. It was here that he would lay the foundations for a revolution. In 1999, Musk co-founded X.com, which would later become PayPal, a company that would not only catapult him into the world of the tech elite, but also set him on a path to creating the future. But success wasn't just handed to him. Musk's aggressive vision often clashed with partners, and his blunt, sometimes abrasive style earned him a reputation as someone who demanded perfection. After being ousted from PayPal, Musk could have walked away, but he didn't. Instead, he doubled down on his most audacious ideas. In 2002, Musk founded SpaceX with a bold mission: to make space travel affordable and sustainable. He poured his fortune into the company, betting against overwhelming odds. The rocket business was known for failure, and Musk was about to discover just how high the stakes were. It wasn't long before SpaceX had one of its biggest setbacks, a failed launch that nearly broke the company. But Musk didn't quit. He reinvested everything he had, and on the third attempt, SpaceX made history by sending a rocket into orbit. Tesla came next, a company that promised to revolutionize the car industry, shifting the world away from fossil fuels to electric power. For most, this was a pipe dream, but Musk's obsession with the future and his relentless work ethic turned Tesla into the iconic company it is today. Tesla didn't just change the car industry, it helped spark a global conversation about sustainability, energy, and the environment. But Musk's path was never easy. Tesla struggled, constantly under threat of collapse. Musk was often described as a visionary with no real understanding of how to run a business, yet he turned Tesla into a force to be reckoned with. By the time Musk turned his attention to Neuralink and the Boring Company, the world had already begun to take notice. He wasn't just a tech mogul anymore. He was a cultural icon, admired and hated in equal measure. But along with the praise came the controversy. Musk had never been one to hold back his thoughts, especially on social media. His erratic tweets, from calling out government regulations to making unsubstantiated claims, often sent markets into a frenzy. Despite this, Musk's followers adored him. His vision for the future was intoxicating, and many believed that he was the one to carry humanity to the next level. On the other side of this battle stood Donald Trump. While Musk's rise had been one of technology and innovation, Trump's path had been paved by wealth, politics, and celebrity. Born into a real estate family, Trump's name had always been synonymous with luxury, power, and controversy. His reality TV stardom helped to amplify his brand, and his political journey culminated in the most unexpected of successes, the presidency. Trump's history with Musk had been one of mutual admiration. Musk, once an outspoken supporter of Trump's policies, had found common ground with the former president on issues like space exploration and American innovation. Musk was seen as a key player in Trump's Make America Great Again movement, with both men advocating for bold, disruptive change. But behind the scenes, their relationship had always been more complicated. While Trump had encouraged Musk's ventures, he had also made it clear that loyalty to the nation and to his vision would come first. As president, Trump had never shied away from making big moves. He was a man who made his own rules, often clashing with both political adversaries and allies. Musk's relationship with Trump was more than just a business one. It was a relationship built on mutual respect for one another's desire to break barriers. But now, with Musk facing a lawsuit that threatened his empire, Trump was faced with a dilemma. Would he side with the billionaire innovator he once praised, or would he play politics, using this moment to assert his own power? Musk's empire had expanded beyond what anyone had imagined. But with that growth came enemies, those who didn't believe in his methods, who saw his actions as reckless. For many, Musk's rise had been too fast, too disruptive. Now, as the government came after him, the world watched to see how far Musk would go to protect everything he had built. And in Trump's corner, the stakes were just as high. For the former president, this wasn't just about a legal battle. It was about proving that even the most powerful figures in America weren't above accountability. Musk and Trump, two men who had once worked in tandem to revolutionize the world, now stood at the crossroads of a much larger battle, a battle for power, influence, and control of the future. As the tension between them grew, the world waited to see who would come out on top. The first signs of conflict between Elon Musk and the federal government were subtle. Rumors had begun circulating about investigations into Musk's business practices, his tweets, and his company's dealings with government contracts. SpaceX, with its impressive achievements in space exploration, had attracted the attention of national security officials. Tesla, the electric vehicle company that was driving an environmental revolution, had its own set of questions to answer about regulatory compliance and emission standards. Musk's empire, once celebrated as a beacon of innovation, was now under intense scrutiny. It started with a few official inquiries, small investigations into possible missteps. But as the months went by, the tension grew. The government seemed to have Musk in its sights. His outspokenness on social media, often mocking government regulations and even calling out elected officials, made him a target. And in Washington, where power was everything, Musk's disregard for authority made him a polarizing figure. Then came the federal lawsuit. The government accused Musk of a range of offenses, from violating environmental regulations to breaching national security protocols with some of SpaceX's secretive contracts. The accusations were serious, and the stakes were higher than Musk could have anticipated. What had once been a friendly alliance with the government was now a full-blown battle. Musk had always been prepared for a fight, but this felt different. There were whispers that President Trump, the man who had once seen Musk as a key ally, was considering intervening. The former president's unpredictability had earned him both loyal followers and bitter enemies, and now, Musk found himself in the middle of a political storm. Would Trump take the side of the entrepreneur who had built so much of America's technological future? Or would he distance himself, choosing to side with the establishment forces that were now calling for Musk's limitations? It didn't help that Musk's personality, his tendency to speak his mind, no matter the consequences, had created even more friction. Just weeks before the lawsuit, he had tweeted that the government's regulations were ridiculous and accused them of stifling innovation. His comments were met with a chorus of disapproval from both the political left and right. Yet, Musk remained unbothered, his confidence unwavering. Musk wasn't just fighting a lawsuit. He was fighting a battle for his very identity. He had built his companies on a foundation of challenging the status quo, and now, that same status quo was trying to take him down. In Washington, behind closed doors, Trump's advisors were divided. On one hand, Musk was an extraordinary force in American business, someone who was pushing the boundaries of what the nation could achieve. Trump had always positioned himself as the champion of American ingenuity. However, Musk's unpredictable behavior and his apparent disdain for traditional political structures were raising concerns. Many within Trump's inner circle feared that Musk's growing influence could challenge the power dynamics Trump had worked so hard to establish. In one meeting, Trump's chief political strategist, Steve Bannon, suggested that Musk's unchecked power needed to be reined in. "He's more of a wild card than we need right now," Bannon said. "We can't let him become bigger than the system. He's not playing by our rules, and that's dangerous." But others in Trump's circle saw Musk as a symbol of America's future, a future driven by bold innovation. Trump's economic advisor, Peter Navarro, was particularly vocal in his support for Musk. "This is the kind of guy we need," Navarro argued. "He's not afraid to shake things up. He represents American values, hard work, risk-taking, and ambition. We can't let the bureaucrats take him down." As the debate within the White House raged on, Musk remained focused on the growing legal battle. His legal team worked around the clock, mounting a fierce defense against the federal charges. He knew the lawsuit could cripple his businesses if it wasn't resolved quickly. But Musk's defiance was more than just a defense of his companies. It was a defense of his way of thinking. For Musk, the lawsuit wasn't just about protecting his financial empire. It was about protecting the future he had envisioned for humanity. On the day the lawsuit was filed, Musk issued a public statement. It wasn't the usual corporate fluff or carefully crafted PR response. This was classic Elon Musk, blunt, unfiltered, and brimming with confidence. "The government doesn't get it," Musk wrote. "They want to regulate and control everything. But the future is bigger than that. Space exploration, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence are not things to be feared. They are the key to a better world. I will fight to protect what I've built, because I believe in that future." His words sent shockwaves through both the tech world and the political arena. Some praised his conviction, while others saw his defiance as a threat. Musk was no longer just a businessman. He was a political lightning rod, a figurehead for everything people loved and hated about modern capitalism. As the legal proceedings began, Musk found himself in the eye of a storm. The federal government wasn't backing down, and Trump was faced with a decision that would define his legacy. Would he protect Musk and his vision for the future? Or would he distance himself from a man who had become increasingly difficult to control? Musk, for his part, seemed undeterred. If anything, the legal battle only seemed to fuel his determination. He was used to facing long odds, and now, with the weight of a nation's scrutiny on his shoulders, Musk wasn't about to back down. The stage was set for a clash of titans, one of America's most unpredictable politicians versus one of its most influential entrepreneurs. The question was no longer just about the lawsuit. It was about the future of power, innovation, and the very way America would move forward. And as the battle intensified, one thing became clear. There was no turning back. The federal lawsuit against Elon Musk had escalated into something much bigger than anyone had imagined. What had begun as a legal challenge now felt like a full-blown existential crisis. As the lawsuit wound its way through the courts, the pressure on Musk continued to mount. But this was nothing new for him. He was no stranger to overcoming adversity. His entire career had been built on defying expectations. Yet this time, the stakes felt different. The government was no longer just questioning his business practices. They were questioning his right to innovate, his right to exist at the top of the tech world. It was early spring when the news broke that President Trump had called for a meeting with Musk. The meeting wasn't publicized, and details were scarce. But the implications were undeniable. Trump, the man who had once praised Musk's business acumen and innovation, was now faced with a pivotal decision. Would he back Musk, or would he decide that the billionaire was too much of a liability? Musk's legal team was in overdrive, preparing for the worst. They were ready for battle, drafting counterarguments, analyzing every possible angle of attack. Musk, meanwhile, was already planning his next moves. He had weathered storms before, but this was a battle for more than just Tesla or SpaceX. This was about the very essence of his vision, the future of humanity in space, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence. The courtroom drama continued to unfold with dramatic moments that had the public glued to their screens. The prosecution's case was built around claims that Musk's companies had violated government contracts, misused federal funds, and ignored crucial regulations that could endanger public safety. They painted Musk as a reckless entrepreneur who believed he was above the law, a dangerous individual with unchecked power and a desire to control too much of the world's future. For Musk, it felt like a personal attack. He was used to controversy, but this time, the very heart of his work was being challenged. SpaceX, the company that had revolutionized space travel and sent NASA astronauts to the International Space Station, was now under fire. Tesla, the electric vehicle company that had led the charge toward a sustainable future, was accused of cutting corners to meet production goals. And then there was Neuralink, his brain-computer interface company, which faced scrutiny over potential ethical concerns. In the midst of the legal turmoil, Musk's team was working around the clock to gather allies, people who believed in his mission and would stand by him in this fight. Tesla's board of directors, SpaceX's top engineers, and investors who had supported his ventures since day one rallied behind him. But perhaps the most important ally he needed was the one who had the power to shape the outcome of this battle, President Trump. The meeting between Trump and Musk took place in the Oval Office, a setting where business deals and political decisions often collided. Trump, ever the businessman, greeted Musk with a handshake that carried the weight of years of mutual respect. The two men had a history of working together, but that was now in jeopardy. Musk knew that Trump was a man who valued strength, loyalty, and above all, power. Elon, I've watched you do amazing things. SpaceX, Tesla, you've changed the game. But the government, they don't like when people get too big. Too much power, too much influence. It scares them, Trump said, sitting behind the resolute desk. Musk nodded. He had never been shy about his ambition. His companies were reshaping entire industries, and if that made people nervous, so be it. I've never done this for power, Musk responded, his voice steady. I do it for the future, for humanity. But if they want to shut us down, we'll fight back. I've fought the system before, and I'll do it again. Trump raised an eyebrow, leaning forward. You've got guts, I'll give you that. But sometimes, Elon, it's about picking your battles. Do you want to keep pushing forward, or are you going to let the system bury you? Musk's gaze didn't falter. I'm not backing down. Not now, not ever. I've come this far because I believe in something bigger than myself. Trump studied him for a long moment, the silence in the room thick with tension. Finally, he leaned back in his chair. All right, you've got my attention. But know this, Washington won't just let you walk away from this. If you want to win this fight, you'll need more than just innovation. You'll need allies. And you'll need to show them you've got the strength to go all the way. With the meeting behind him, Musk knew this was only the beginning of a long, unpredictable journey. The lawsuit wasn't going to be resolved overnight, and the public was watching his every move. If Trump's involvement was any indication, things were about to get even more complicated. Musk had already demonstrated his ability to navigate chaos, but this was a different kind of chaos. It wasn't just about proving that SpaceX and Tesla were capable of changing the world. It was about proving that he could challenge the very institutions that had helped shape that world. Musk was a visionary, but even visionaries needed allies. And in Washington, alliances were fragile things, shaped by power and influence. The next few months would be crucial. If Musk could win over the key players in Washington, if he could prove that his vision for the future aligned with America's national interests, he might be able to weather the storm. But if he failed, the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for him, but for the industries that depended on him. As the legal battle raged on, Musk's focus remained unwavering. The stakes had never been higher. He had a plan for the future, a future where humanity would venture beyond Earth's atmosphere and into the stars. But right now, he had to survive the fight on Earth. It was a fight for his companies, a fight for his vision, a fight for the future. And Musk wasn't about to let anyone take that away from him. The courtroom was packed, the tension palpable. Elon Musk sat at the defense table, flanked by his legal team, his expression one of quiet determination. The proceedings had dragged on for months, each day pushing him further to the edge. But it wasn't the endless legal arguments that had him on edge. It was the looming sense that the entire weight of the nation's future innovation was on his shoulders. The prosecution was relentless. They had dug up every possible detail of Musk's business dealings, scrutinizing each contract, each government grant, and every tweet he had ever posted. They painted him as a reckless billionaire who operated outside the law, a man who believed he could bend the rules to suit his ambitions. Every detail of his past was being used against him. But despite the mounting evidence, Musk stood firm. His defense team had done their best to poke holes in the government's case, but it was becoming clear that the prosecution was building something much bigger than a simple lawsuit. They were trying to make Musk a symbol of everything wrong with Silicon Valley's unchecked power. The government wasn't just going after a businessman, they were going after a larger idea. That one man, armed with the right technology, could challenge the very fabric of the political and economic system. It was during one of the trial's most intense moments that the truth came crashing down. The prosecution had called a surprise witness, a former senior official from NASA who had worked closely with SpaceX on a series of high-profile missions. The witness, a respected figure in the space community, took the stand and dropped a bombshell. Musk's actions, the witness began, have put the integrity of multiple missions at risk. SpaceX may have delivered results, but it has also taken excessive risks. Risks that should not be taken when human lives are at stake. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Musk's eyes narrowed as he absorbed the full weight of the accusation. The public had known of Musk's brash, risk-taking style, but to hear it echoed by someone within the very industry he had transformed was a shock. The courtroom murmured in disbelief, and Musk's legal team quickly scrambled to mount a defense. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted. The government had found their opening, and they were pushing hard to exploit it. Musk was rattled, but he refused to show it. He had faced down numerous challenges in his life, from near bankruptcy with Tesla to rocket failures at SpaceX, but this felt different. For the first time, he was unsure if his fight for the future could withstand the growing storm around him. Back in Washington, President Trump was watching the trial unfold on live television. His advisors, who had initially expressed strong support for Musk, were beginning to waver. The prosecution's case had taken a more personal turn, casting Musk's vision of space exploration and technological advancement in a dangerous light. Trump's own political future was now intertwined with Musk's battle. Public opinion was shifting, and some of his allies in Congress began questioning whether Musk's unchecked power could be allowed to continue. One evening, Trump met with his top advisors to discuss the situation. His chief of staff, Mark Meadows, expressed concern about the mounting pressure from both sides of the aisle. "We can't afford to back someone who's starting to look like a liability," Meadows said, his voice grave. "People are worried about the risks Musk's taking with taxpayer dollars, and now, with this witness testimony, there's a real possibility that his future, and his company's, could be in jeopardy." Trump's gaze hardened. "I didn't get where I am by backing down from a fight, and neither did Musk. The media wants to paint him as the bad guy, but he's the one who's pushing for the future. He's got guts, and America needs people with guts." But Trump knew the stakes were high. His decision wasn't just about Musk. It was about whether to stand by the kind of innovation that had made America the world's leader in technological progress. It was about the future, and whether that future would be shaped by bold individuals like Musk, or whether it would fall to the slow-moving bureaucracy of Washington. The emotional climax of this legal battle reached its peak one night, as Musk prepared to testify. The pressure was overwhelming, and as he walked into the courthouse, the reality of the situation settled in. The fight he had been waging for so long was no longer just about his companies. It was about his legacy. His dream of pushing humanity to the stars, of transitioning the world to renewable energy, was in jeopardy. Inside the courtroom, Musk faced the prosecutor, who began grilling him on his business practices and his leadership style. Every question seemed designed to corner him, to paint him as an arrogant, reckless figure who cared more about his vision than the people who worked with him. But Musk remained composed, answering each question with the same quiet confidence that had gotten him this far. But as the questions grew more pointed, something inside Musk snapped. The weight of the accusations, the mounting pressure, the fear of losing everything he had worked for. It all became too much. For the first time in the trial, Musk allowed himself to show his vulnerability. "Look," Musk said, his voice slightly shaking, "I know I'm not perfect, but I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for the future. For the kids who will grow up in a world where they can take a trip to Mars. For the people who will drive electric cars instead of gas-guzzling ones. For the environment. I've fought for this vision my entire life. I've risked everything for it. And I'll keep fighting, no matter what." There was a moment of silence in the courtroom. Even the prosecutor seemed taken aback by the raw emotion in Musk's voice. For a fleeting moment, the fight no longer seemed about the lawsuit or the courtroom drama. It was about a man who had devoted his life to something bigger than himself, something that transcended politics and public opinion. In that moment, Musk's sincerity became undeniable. His determination to push humanity forward, to create a future beyond the stars, was what had always driven him. And now, in the face of adversity, it was that same passion that would carry him through. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. It was clear that Musk's emotional testimony had left a mark. The public, too, began to rally behind him. People weren't just seeing the billionaire entrepreneur anymore. They were seeing a man who was fighting for the future of the world. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, Musk could see a glimmer of hope. The truth, the core of his mission, had been laid bare. And no matter what happened in the days to come, he knew he could not, and would not, let anyone take that away from him. The courtroom was nearly silent as the final arguments were made. Tensions had been running high for months, and the battle had felt endless. Yet, somehow, the day had come when the case would be wrapped up. Elon Musk had done what he could. His emotions had been laid bare, his passion and commitment to his vision shining through. Now, it was up to the jury to decide his fate, and to the world to decide whether they would continue to support him or turn their backs. Outside the courthouse, the media frenzy was in full swing. News outlets broadcasted live updates, speculating about what the verdict would mean for Musk, for SpaceX, and for the industries that were intertwined with his future. Headlines screamed both support and condemnation. Public opinion was divided, but one thing was certain: everyone was watching. Musk had never been one to shy away from the spotlight, but this was different. This time, the stakes were personal. The future of his companies, his vision of space exploration, and the impact of his work on the planet's future were all on the line. His vision had always been bold, but now, In this moment, he faced a deeper, more existential question. What would happen if everything he had built came crashing down? As the jury deliberated, Musk retreated into a quiet corner of his mind. He thought about the years of work that had led him here. The late nights designing rockets, the countless setbacks with Tesla's production, the relentless criticism from the media. It had all been part of the journey. He had faced doubt from the beginning. People had said he was crazy, that his ambitions were too big. But he had always kept going, driven by something greater than himself. For all the battles Musk had fought, both inside and outside the courtroom, one thing was clear. He had always believed in progress. Whether it was with the electric car revolution at Tesla or the private space industry at SpaceX, he had pushed forward because he saw a future that others didn't. He remembered a moment from early in his career, when he was living in a tiny apartment and sleeping on the floor of the Tesla factory, trying to figure out how to make the company work. It was a time when failure seemed imminent, but he had refused to give up. It wasn't just about the money. It was about creating something lasting, something that would impact generations to come. Do you want to change the world or just make money? Musk asked himself in the quiet of his mind. The question had always been his driving force. And now, even as the weight of the lawsuit hung over him, it still remained the answer. He wanted to change the world, no matter the cost. Then, the door to the courtroom opened and the jury filed in. The room grew tense as everyone waited for the verdict. Musk's heart raced, but he kept his face neutral. He had done everything he could. Now, it was in the hands of others. The foreman of the jury stood, and with a deep breath, delivered the decision. We find the defendant, Elon Musk, not guilty on all counts. The room erupted in a mixture of disbelief and relief. Musk's legal team exhaled, some even smiling, while others looked stunned by the verdict. The prosecution, too, seemed taken aback, but they quickly regained composure. For Musk, it was a moment of quiet triumph. It wasn't just the victory, it was what it represented. It was the affirmation that, for now, his vision could continue. For the first time in what felt like forever, Musk allowed himself a breath. A wave of emotion hit him, but it wasn't the anger or fear that had dominated his thoughts for so long. Instead, it was a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for his team, for his supporters, and most importantly, for the belief that the world still needed the kind of progress he was working to create. As Musk stepped outside the courthouse, the media descended upon him. Cameras flashed, microphones were thrust in front of his face, and questions poured in. But Musk wasn't interested in giving a soundbite. He had said what he needed to say during the trial, and he wasn't about to let the chaos of the moment cloud his focus. A reporter shouted from the crowd, "Mr. Musk, how do you feel about the verdict? What's next for you?" Musk paused for a moment, then answered, his voice steady but calm. "I'm grateful for the outcome, but this isn't just about me. It's about the future. We've got work to do, work that matters. I'll keep pushing forward because that's what this world needs. More than anything, we need people who aren't afraid to take risks, to think beyond the impossible, and to work for a better tomorrow." He didn't wait for further questions. Instead, he turned to walk away, his mind already racing ahead to the next challenge. He had learned something invaluable over the course of this trial, the importance of resilience, of staying true to one's vision, no matter the obstacles. As the days passed, Musk returned to his companies, diving headfirst into the challenges that awaited him. The lawsuit was behind him, but the road ahead was still long. SpaceX was preparing for its next mission to Mars, and Tesla's expansion into new markets was picking up pace. Neuralink was making strides in brain-computer interfaces, and the future of electric vehicles was looking brighter than ever. The world was changing, and Musk was at the forefront of it all. But Musk had learned something else during the trial. He had learned the importance of connection, the importance of human relationships in the pursuit of grand ideas. It wasn't just about technology. It was about the people who believed in it. His team at SpaceX, the engineers at Tesla, the supporters who had never wavered in their belief that he could make the world a better place. These were the people who made it all possible. He thought about the conversations he'd had with those closest to him during the trial. His family, his friends, and even his critics had given him a new perspective. He knew that he had to surround himself with people who challenged him, People who didn't just say yes to every idea but pushed him to think deeper, to ask the tough questions. The journey hadn't been easy. It never was. But Musk understood now that the road to the future was always going to be filled with obstacles, challenges, and moments of doubt. The key was not to avoid them but to face them head-on, to keep moving forward, no matter what. In the end, the trial had been a turning point, not just in Musk's career, but in his life. It had forced him to reflect on his purpose, his mission, and his place in a rapidly changing world. But more importantly, it had reminded him that no matter how tough the road got, there was always hope for a new beginning. The battle had been won, but the true victory was in what came next, the work, the dreams, and the future that Musk was determined to create, one innovation at a time. The days following the trial were filled with the kind of quiet reflection that Musk rarely allowed himself. Even as the headlines shifted from sensational courtroom drama to the excitement surrounding SpaceX's upcoming Mars mission, the echoes of the trial lingered. There was an undeniable change in the air. The legal battle, which had seemed all-consuming, now felt like a distant storm that had passed. But it left behind a changed landscape. Musk had won the battle, but it was clear that the war for control of innovation was far from over. The legal system may have cleared his name, but public opinion was far more complicated. Some praised his resilience, while others remained skeptical of his unchecked power. The tech world was buzzing with new questions, questions Musk hadn't anticipated. What did this trial mean for Silicon Valley? Was his success a product of brilliance, or the consequence of a system that allowed a few powerful individuals to become too influential? With the verdict in his favor, Musk's immediate focus was on continuing the work that had made him a global figure in the first place. SpaceX had its sights set on Mars, and the clock was ticking. Tesla was preparing to roll out new electric vehicle models, pushing for a global revolution in transportation. Neuralink was making strides in the medical field, aiming to help those with neurological disorders. But even as he threw himself back into his ventures, he couldn't ignore the changes that had occurred, both externally and within himself. The most significant shift was in how Musk viewed the intersection of power, responsibility, and innovation. For years, he had operated under the belief that his vision was enough to carry him forward, that his relentless drive could overcome any challenge. Now, though, he understood that such ambition came with unintended consequences. The power to change the world came with the responsibility to ensure that those changes didn't harm it. And while the lawsuit was over, the scrutiny of his methods and the broader implications of his work had only just begun. Back in Washington, President Trump had watched the trial unfold with a mixture of fascination and concern. The public's reactions to the verdict were divisive, and the political implications of Musk's continued success were becoming impossible to ignore. The White House was under increasing pressure from both sides, supporters who saw Musk as a national hero and critics who viewed him as a dangerous symbol of corporate overreach. In private meetings with his advisors, Trump mulled over the long-term consequences of Musk's rise. For all the admiration Musk garnered for his innovative spirit, there were lingering questions about the concentration of power in the hands of a few individuals. Could Musk continue to hold such significant influence over critical industries without the government stepping in to regulate him? The legal battle might have ended, but the underlying conflict between innovation and regulation was far from resolved. Trump, ever the strategist, realized that the question of how to deal with Musk was one that would haunt future administrations. Musk was more than just a businessman. He was a cultural force. And Trump knew that navigating the future of Silicon Valley and its titans would require a delicate balance. The stakes were high, and the world was watching. For Musk, the aftermath of the trial brought with it a wave of introspection. The years of criticism, failure, and personal sacrifice had shaped him into a man who prided himself on being impervious to doubt. Yet the emotional toll of the lawsuit had forced him to reevaluate his approach. He had always operated on the principle of moving fast and breaking things, but now he understood that breaking things could come with unintended consequences. In conversations with trusted friends and colleagues, Musk began to explore the idea of responsibility. For all his talk of revolutionizing industries, he had often neglected the impact of those revolutions on people's lives. Now, he had to confront the reality that his success could be a double-edged sword. As SpaceX's rockets soared into the sky, Tesla's electric vehicles hit the roads, and Neuralink advanced medical technology, Musk knew that the power he wielded could reshape not just the future, but the fabric of society. Musk had always been determined to push the boundaries of what was possible. But in the aftermath of the trial, he knew that pushing those boundaries without consideration of their consequences would no longer be acceptable. One of the more personal consequences of the trial was the strain it placed on Musk's relationships. The long hours, the unrelenting stress, the constant public scrutiny, it had all taken a toll on his family life. Musk had always been a visionary, driven by a singular focus on the future. But now, he began to understand that he could not sacrifice the present for the sake of a future that was uncertain. Through late-night conversations with his ex-wife, Grimes, and his children, Musk came to terms with the reality that his work couldn't always come first. The drive to create and innovate was powerful, but it was also exhausting. It wasn't just about sending humans to Mars or building the most advanced electric car. It was about creating a world where those who supported him could thrive, too. It was a lesson that took time to sink in, but Musk began to focus on what mattered most: those who had been with him from the start. His employees at Tesla and SpaceX, his close-knit group of engineers and innovators, had helped make his dreams a reality. They had sacrificed their own time and energy to push the boundaries of what was possible. And in return, Musk promised himself he would work to support them, to create a balance between ambition and the human cost of success. As the months passed, Musk's role in Silicon Valley became more complicated. The victory in the courtroom was one thing, but the real challenge was navigating the public's perception of him. Would he be remembered as a hero who changed the world, or as a symbol of unchecked corporate power? The answer, Musk realized, was still being written. It wasn't enough to build rockets to Mars or electric cars that ran on clean energy. The true test of his legacy would be how he navigated the delicate balance between innovation and responsibility. The world was changing, and Musk was changing with it. The future was still his to shape, but now, it would be shaped with the awareness that progress must be tempered with accountability. As Musk stood on the launch pad, gazing at the massive rocket that would carry humanity to Mars, he knew that this moment was just another step in an endless journey. The trial, the public scrutiny, the relentless pursuit of innovation. It had all led to this. But as he looked to the horizon, he realized that the most important part of this journey wasn't the destination. It was the people he would bring with him, the legacy of not just what he built, but how he built it. And in that moment, Musk understood that true success was not just about reaching new heights in space or revolutionizing industries. It was about creating a future that was better, fairer, and more connected for everyone. The battle had been fought, and the future awaited. With the lessons of the past behind him, Elon Musk was ready to embrace the next chapter, with all the challenges and responsibilities that came with it. The journey was far from over. It was just beginning. As the days turned into weeks, Musk found himself back at his desk, surrounded by the papers, blueprints, and plans that had always consumed his thoughts. The world was buzzing with excitement about the next big things: Mars, electric cars, brain-computer interfaces. Yet, beneath the surface of his usual unshakable resolve, there was a new level of contemplation. The legal battle had been won, but the bigger challenge now lay in the future of innovation itself. Musk had learned from the trial that leadership, no matter how visionary, could never be blind to the implications of power. He had always known that the road to success was paved with sacrifice, but now, he wondered, was it enough to be the driving force behind change, or was it more important to consider the people affected by that change? One morning, as Musk sat in his office overlooking the SpaceX headquarters, his phone buzzed. It was a message from one of his closest advisors, someone who had stood by him through thick and thin. "Elon, we need to talk. The future of SpaceX, Tesla, and your other ventures, there's a lot at stake. More than just tech now. We need to reassess." Musk read the message and felt the weight of the words. It wasn't just about launching rockets anymore, or making the world greener through electric cars. The conversations had changed. Now, the focus was on the ethical dimensions of power, the potential consequences of his actions not just on the markets, but on society at large. Musk's mind raced. It wasn't long ago that he had seen himself as the lone visionary, the man who would change the world by defying conventional limits. But now, the conversation had shifted. Society was evolving, and so were the expectations placed upon him. People were no longer asking just for new technology. They wanted fairness, sustainability, and a sense of accountability. Musk couldn't ignore that. Later that week, he convened a meeting with his top executives from Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and Boring Company. His chief officers and engineers were used to Musk's unwavering decisiveness, but today, something felt different. Musk opened the meeting with a question. What are we doing to ensure that we are not just changing industries, but changing the world in a positive way? Is our success making a real difference for the future, or is it just about the bottom line? The room fell quiet, and Musk could feel the weight of his question. He wasn't the same man who had built his empire on risk-taking and audacity. Now, he was considering the legacy of his work in a way he hadn't before. The answers were thoughtful, but there was an undercurrent of uncertainty. His companies were achieving unprecedented milestones, but had they truly considered the broader impact on humanity? Elon's longtime friend and SpaceX CFO, Gwynne Shotwell, spoke up. Elon, you've always pushed us to think beyond the conventional. But the world is changing, and with it, expectations. We're not just innovators. We're now responsible for a new era. How we move forward will shape the very future of technology. Her words hit home. Musk had always prided himself on being ahead of the curve. But this was more than innovation. It was about creating systems that worked for everyone, not just the few at the top. In the weeks that followed, Musk threw himself into what he called a new kind of mission, one that would tackle the ethical responsibilities of advancing technology. He began consulting with experts in ethics, sustainability, and social justice. He traveled to universities, meeting with thinkers, economists, and even former critics of his companies. The conversations were long and complex, and many were uncomfortable for Musk. He wasn't used to questioning his approach so thoroughly. Yet, he knew it was necessary. The conversations were sobering. Acknowledging the environmental impacts of rapid technological advancements, understanding the societal effects of automation, and ensuring that his companies didn't inadvertently contribute to widening economic inequality, it was all part of a bigger picture he had never fully considered. During a keynote at a global technology summit, Musk made a pivotal announcement. It was a speech that took many by surprise. Instead of the usual boasts about Mars or artificial intelligence, Musk spoke passionately about the future of humanity and the importance of collaboration over competition. We are on the brink of an age that will define humanity for centuries. But with this opportunity comes a responsibility we cannot ignore, Musk said, his voice steady but resolute. We cannot continue to innovate without considering the long-term impact of our actions. It's no longer just about the next big idea. It's about creating a future that benefits all people, not just those who can afford it. We have to be better, do better. The response to Musk's speech was overwhelming. Some praised him for his newfound humility, while others questioned whether he was simply trying to salvage his reputation after the legal battle. But Musk wasn't concerned with the critics. He had made his peace with that. What mattered now was taking action. He initiated the creation of a new division within SpaceX and Tesla, one focused on sustainability and ethical innovation. The goal was to develop technology that would not only push the boundaries of space travel and electric vehicles, but would also serve the greater good. SpaceX began reworking its plans for interplanetary colonization, incorporating sustainable energy practices and ensuring that resource extraction on other planets would be done responsibly. Tesla expanded its efforts to make solar energy accessible to underserved communities, and Neuralink redirected some of its resources toward projects that could help rehabilitate people who had been adversely affected by technological progress, like workers displaced by automation. Musk also initiated a fund to support startups focused on solving global challenges, like hunger, climate change, and energy scarcity. In time, Musk began to see the results of his shift in priorities. Public opinion, which had once been divided, began to swing in his favor again. More people saw Musk not just as a businessman or an innovator, but as a leader with a genuine concern for the future of humanity. It wasn't perfect. There would always be those who criticized him, but the dialogue had changed. He had managed to transform from a controversial figure into someone who was now shaping the future, not just with groundbreaking technology, but with a vision that included everyone. Years passed, and the legacy of Elon Musk continued to evolve. Mars was still the dream, but it was no longer the sole focus. His companies had expanded into new fields, and their impact reached far beyond anything he had ever imagined. The technologies he had pioneered had become integral parts of everyday life, but now they existed within frameworks of fairness and sustainability. Musk had become not only the architect of a new era of technology, but the standard-bearer for what it meant to lead responsibly in the modern world. As he stood at the helm of a new generation of pioneers, Musk smiled. The journey had been long, and it had been filled with challenges, both external and internal. But in the end, he had discovered something greater than the next big breakthrough. He had found a deeper purpose in his work, the creation of a world where innovation and responsibility went hand in hand, and where the future truly was something to look forward to. The world had watched him evolve, and now, Musk's true legacy wasn't just the power he held or the industries he transformed. It was the future he had helped create, a future built not on the domination of the few, but on the empowerment of the many.